So the relationships with animals and relationship with the robots as they are now, you kind of implied that that's more healthy. Can you have a healthy relationship with other humans, or not healthy? I don't like that word, but it- shouldn't it be? You've talked about codependency. Maybe you can talk about what is codependency, but is that is the challenges of that, the complexity of that, necessary for passion, for love between
That's
humans?
right. You love passion. That's a
I
good thing.
I thought this would be a safe space. I got trolled by Rogan for hours on this.
I am not anti-passion. I think that I've just maybe been around long enough to know that sometimes it's ephemeral and that passion is a mixture of a lot of different things. Adrenaline, which turns into dopamine, cortisol. It's a lot of neurochemicals. It's a lot of projection. It's a lot of what we've seen in movies. It's a lot of, I identify as an addict. So for me, sometimes passion is like, this could be bad. And I think we've been so conditioned to believe that passion means like your soulmates. And I mean, how many times have you had a passionate connection with someone and then it was a total train wreck? Passion.
The train wreck is
how many times exactly?
Exactly. What's a train wreck?
You just did a lot of math in your head in that little moment.
Counting. I mean, what's a train wreck? Why is obsession? So you described this codependency and sort of the idea of attachment, over attachment to people who don't deserve that kind of attachment as somehow a bad thing. I think our society says it's a bad thing. It probably is a bad thing, like a delicious burger is a bad thing. I don't know, but
right. Oh, that's a good point. I think that you're pointing out something really fascinating, which is like passion. If you go into it knowing this is like pizza, where it's going to be delicious for 2 hours, and then I don't have to have it again for 3. If you can have a choice in the passion, I define passion as something that is relatively unmanageable and something you can't control or stop and start with your own volition. So maybe we're operating under different definitions. If passion is something that ruins your marriages and screws up your professional life and becomes this thing that you're not in control of and becomes addictive, I think that's the difference. Is it a choice or is it not a choice? And if it is a choice, then passion's great. But if it's something that like consumes you and makes you start making bad decisions and clouds your frontal lobe and is just all about dopamine and not really about the person and more about the neurochemical, we call it sort of the internal drug cabinet. If it's all just you're on drugs, that's different, because sometimes you're just on drugs.
Okay, so there's a philosophical question here. So would you rather, and it's interesting for a comedian, a brilliant comedian to speak so eloquently about a balanced life. I kind of argue against this point. There's such an obsession of creating this healthy lifestyle now, psychologically speaking. I'm a fan of the idea that you sort of fly high and you crash and die at 27 as also a possible life. And it's not one we should judge, because I think there's moments of greatness. I talk to Olympic athletes where some of their greatest moments are achieved in their early 20s, and the rest of their life is in a kind of fog of almost of a depression, because
it was based on their physical prowess, right?
Physical prowess, and they'll never, so they're watching their physical prowess fade, and they'll never achieve the kind of height, not just physical, of just emotion, of
the max number of neurochemicals.
Yeah.
And you also put your money on the wrong horse. That's where I would just go like, oh yeah, if you're doing a job where you peak at 22, the rest of your life is going to be hard.
That idea is considering the notion that you want to optimize some kind of, but we're all going to die soon.
What? Now you tell me. I've immortalized myself, so I'm going to be fine.
So you're almost like, how many Oscar-winning movies can I direct by the time I'm 100? How many this and that? But there's it's all, life is short, relatively speaking.
I know, but it can also come at different. You go, life is short. Play hard, fall in love as much as you can, run into walls. I would also go, life is short. Don't deplete yourself on things that aren't sustainable and that you can't keep.
Yeah.
You know, so I think everyone gets dopamine from different places. Everyone has meaning from different places. I look at the fleeting, passionate relationships I've had in the past, and I don't have pride in them. I think that you have to decide what, helps you sleep at night. For me, it's pride and feeling like I behave with grace and integrity. That's just me personally. Everyone can go like, yeah, I slept with all the hot chicks in Italy I could, and I, did all the whatever, like whatever you value. We're allowed to value different
Here
things.
we're talking about Brian Callen again.
Brian Callen has lived his life to the fullest, to say the least. But I think that it's just for me personally, and this could be like my workaholism or my achievementism. If I don't have something to show for something, I feel like it's a waste of time or some kind of loss. I'm in a 12-step program, and the third step would say there's no such thing as wasted time, and everything happens exactly as it should, and whatever. That's a way to just sort of keep us sane so we don't grieve too much and beat ourselves up over past mistakes. There's no such thing as mistakes, da-da-da. But I think passion I think it's so life-affirming, and one of the few things that maybe people like us makes us feel awake and seen, and we just have such a high threshold for adrenaline. I mean, you are a fighter, right? Yeah. Okay. So you have a very high tolerance for adrenaline. And I think that Olympic athletes, the amount of adrenaline they get from performing, it's very hard to follow that. It's like when guys come back from the military and they have depression. It's like, do you miss bullets flying at you? Yeah, kind of, because of that adrenaline, which turned into dopamine and the camaraderie. I mean, there's people that speak much better about this than I do. But I'm obsessed with neurology, and I'm just obsessed with sort of the lies we tell ourselves in order to justify getting neurochemicals.